Hey folks, it's Frithgar here, how you doing? Just getting started here, and I'm going to put the fertilizer spreading now, and then we're going to work on enlarging the field afterwards. And yes, it probably will mean it will have a ring around the edge of the field that doesn't get quite as much fertilizer this time around, but I don't really mind, I'm going to be honest. Yeah, while we're bombing up across the field here and travelling very level, really, it doesn't seem to be considerably rough at all. We have the ground response mod going, and this is ploughed ground, not necessarily full realism at play here, but anyway. My question is, I am planning to do some forestry work at some point. I'll probably spend about a week doing some forestry work, maybe even longer than that, where I will hire the Ponzi Scorpion King for a little while. We'll chop down a load of trees, and we might chip some up. Probably we won't. We'll probably carry them all and like use the trains and so on. Use the trains to take them to the yard and things like that. So generally I thought that could be quite entertaining, quite a good experience. But the thing is, now I want to... No, I don't want to hitch that one up. I've already unhitched it. I'm going to go and get the roller at the moment. We're going to head back down to the yard and get our roller and then come back up here. Yeah, so anyway, the forestry and the logging, I probably will find ways to move all the logs around, and there is, I think, a timber runner now with an autoload logging script that's been converted over from FS15. I really hope that there is, because if there is, I would like to try and get that involved into our forestry system. Are you happy for me to use a logging trailer with an autoload script fitted into it, built into it, so that we can auto-load some of the logs? I won't auto-load all of them, but it would certainly help, I feel, if we could auto-load some of them. So it's your vote, it's your game. Do you want me to use an auto-load logging trailer when I do forestry or not? There should have been a card come up here, up in the top right-hand corner of the screen by now. Mouse over it and click on it to actually cast your vote, and head in the comment section. Let us know why you're voting for the one that you're voting for, and see if you can't get everybody else to vote for the same. I will run back to the yard now and collect our roller, then I'll get back up to field 1 so that we can make a start on enlarging the field. I'm probably just going to do one round around the outside, because that plough that we got up there is, I think it's like 5.5 meters wide, so we'll be able to do. I don't think we need more than one pass all the way round. We'll have a look when we get back up there and see what it looks like. I absolutely love that. When you come down the hill, yeah, I'm looking out to the side, not where I'm going, which is why I'm driving all over the road at the moment. But I absolutely love when you drive along and you see the big fields, oilseed rape with all the yellow flowers coming up on them. You see quite a bit of that in the area of the country that I live in the UK. There is quite a lot of this stuff that is grown, and I really do love to see the fields of it when they're like that. I also keep bees. Well, I used to keep bees. I don't really keep bees anymore. But the big fields of canola like this, they're absolutely fantastic for beekeepers. If you can put some beehives near there, or there's fields of this stuff within a couple of miles of where you actually keep your bees, you get a nice lot of honey out of it. It can be difficult to process. It's one of the types of honeys that is it's difficult because it sets quite quickly in the honeycomb, so it's difficult to extract the honey. When you have this stuff being put into your hive, you've got to take it out of the hive fairly quickly, before it's set, or you've got to have it as whole honeycomb rather than the bits of honeycomb. Now, I'm just thinking, if I was to take that cultivator with me, I could go the back way, nip to the dealership, sell the cultivator. I don't think I'll worry about that for now. We'll do it with that. That can be another time. So yeah, I really do. It sort of really pleases me seeing these great big fields of canola, because I know that there should be thousands of honeybees working hard to pollinate these flowers, and the honey that comes off of it is a really nice flavour. It's I do particularly enjoy it. I've often, when I did keep bees, I would extract some honey But we would also try to get the whole honeycomb, and this stuff is perfect for honeycomb because it does set slightly into the comb. If you don't get it out immediately, you get kind of this. It makes it a little bit crunchier almost, and you got the solidified sugars and that in it. It's lovely. I'm really failing to describe just how good it is. You see the fresh honeycomb with this stuff made. Oh, it's just lush. It is amazing. So yeah, it really does bring back some good memories when I see these great big fields, because I know exactly how good the honeycomb tastes that is coming out of those fields. And someone I know, a beekeeper that I know, he's kept it's like between 500 and 1,000 hives. It sort of varies from year to year and depends how much he's getting into it at the time, and whether he's got any other projects on the go as to whether he sort of pulls back. But anyway, he's done that for I think now about 40 years. So he's an experienced beekeeper and he knows what he's doing. And he put a beehive next to one of these fields once, and he's always, as a matter of course, checked beehives that are in those fields every single day because of how quickly the bees can fill these things up. And he would always keep like 2 spare supers, that's the boxes that go on the top, 2 spare supers on each hive. One hive that he did, he put them in there, and then he checked it the following day, and it had 1.5 supers already filled. He thought, wow, okay, that's quite impressive. I'll put 3 on, and then the following day it just went on and on and on. And while that field was in flower, I think it normally lasts 2 to 3 weeks, it was something like 13 supers of honey were filled from that one beehive, which is absolutely staggering, right? That is a massive amount of honey. 1 super of honey is, now I can't actually remember what the numbers are. I think it's roughly 30 pounds of honey in a super. So he had 13 supers. 13 supers off of one hive. And if you're talking about 30 pounds of honey in a super, I think it's 30. I'm going to have to go and look this up now. I really can't remember. I'm ashamed to say that I cannot remember how many pounds of honey are in a super on a hive, because I've kept bees for so long. I should know. This is the kind of thing that I should know. So I apologise for not actually remembering that. I'm going to have to look it up. I'll look it up on my tablet in a minute. And that one's going to go down there, and that is going to be the last of it. We're going to get lined up along here and then start going around the field. So I'll get the GPS mod set up. And yeah, I think just 1 pass around the field will be just fine. Actually, I don't know why I'm worrying about getting it just lined up perfectly. We'll let the GPS mod do that. So let's start this one up and open there. And then auto width. Perfect. Now, if I just slide that out a bit, I want to get it just right. So I'd say about there, maybe. That seems to be about right. Engage the GPS. And wiggle it backwards and forwards a few times. That should line it up nicely. You've got to make sure that you do get it actually lined up perfectly. Right. Let's back out a little bit. That's probably far enough. Lower it down. And I need to... Is it just Y or is it Control Y? Just Y. That's all you need to do is press Y. And that allows create fields. And it should be far enough out here. And then we should have a perfectly straight line all the way round. This is excellent. So we'll do this, and then... I'm just wondering if I should just nip down to the other end. No, I won't worry about it. We're going to do 1 pass all the way around the field. I don't think we're going to do a second one. I think that's going to go out too far. And I don't really want to encroach too much onto this grass. And I'm also keen to see if I can do this without needing to use the roller along it. If I could get it absolutely dead straight all the way along, it's the corners where you need to use the roller. But it seems a shame to use the roller because it deletes the grass, and then you can't mow it. You can't do anything with the land once you've put the roller over it. Which does seem wasteful, and I do wish that there was another way that we could have this and do it. Right, let me just come out a little bit there. I think that's probably far enough. And like that. Come round. Now then. This is the next bit. If I can get that lined up just right, I reckon there. Now I'm looking sort of straight down almost. Back up a little bit. I'm hoping that is about right. So now if I press the left control button and I do the 90-degree switch like that, then move it out. We'll line up with what I think is roughly the edge. There we go. Do that. Right, now the problem is I lined it up just where I thought it was supposed to be, and of course the tractor isn't dead centered on that line, which is going to cause an issue in a minute. So let's try backing it up. I think about there is right. So if I lower it down, let's see how accurate I am. It's not bad. I'll tell you what, we'd leave that. I'll start travelling forwards, and we're going to see what it's like around the edge. If I can try and keep it as neat as possible, it's not going to be a dead straight line, but you know that's quite realistic, because you wouldn't normally have an absolutely dead straight line on the edge of your field, would you? I don't think you would. I certainly wouldn't. I'm not capable of doing that. Although the GPS is pretty good, so the GPS might, but I still don't think that you would have the edge of your field as a dead straight line. I'll get down to the end here, and then we can set up for the next pass, and see if we're actually going to need to use the roller. We might even end up bringing that roller up here was a complete waste of time. And I've got to be honest, I'd be quite happy about that. I don't mind. It does mean that we'd be improving on how we're approaching this task. Right, we've come to this point. If I don't go any further, we might be able to get away with not doing any more. Obviously, we don't want to go too far out onto the road on that side. So if I was to come back to about here and then set up, switch that round. That to about there. I want to come back a little bit further than that, don't I? Looking where it is up through there. Go forward a bit and then it will show me the line. That's better. Right, I think that's about right. So if I actually I want to engage the GPS. There we go, and lower this one down. Yes, I think that's actually going to be okay. Possibly we want the roller just to bring that corner in a little bit further, so that when we come up through here with a big trailer, we can get through without too much trouble. But generally, I don't think that's too bad. And I did just go and look up about the pounds of honey in a super, and it's between 20 and 30 pounds. So if you've got a really vigorous beehive that is drawing out and filling frames in each super on the beehive, that's when you look at a beehive, each box that goes on top of the hive, one box is a super. It has 10 to 12 frames inside it, and the bees fill those frames. They draw them out with a hexagon-shaped cells, and then they fill them with honey. And you're looking at 20 to 30 pounds of honey. So if you've got a full super, it's roughly 30 pounds of honey that you can extract from that, which is a nice big lot of honey. It's fantastic being able to have all that honey. And yes, we do make sure that the bees keep enough for the winter. When a beehive is making 13 times 30, which is 390 pounds of honey in about 3 weeks, when a beehive actually produces that much, they don't need it. They will never eat that much honey in one winter, right? That is producing far more than they actually need. And this is a thing that happens quite frequently. I know that they don't need that much because a beehive will typically eat around about 30 pounds of honey over a course of a winter. And what you do is you make, because the number of bees is drastically reduced for the winter, they actually they do it themselves. They purge all of the males out of the hive, all of the drones that haven't gone off, that's the male bees, they throw them all out. Come the autumn, all the female bees, they gather up together and they toss them all out into the cold. And so all of the drones, they die. That is the end of the drone bees, poor things. They do not hibernate through the winter. Occasionally you might have one that has, for some reason, has managed to slip the net, but generally they get rid of all of the drones, and that's it until the following spring, when the queen will start laying more eggs and lays drone eggs. And the queen decides whether it's going to be a female or a male. There's a process involved. I'm not going into that now. So yeah, you have all of this honey. There's masses and masses of this honey. And the bees do not need all of this honey. They won't eat it all. There is no way that the beehive can eat that much honey. Because of in the height of the summer, a beehive can go up to and including 100,000 bees. It's unusual to get that big, but they can get that big. And then in the winter, they can go right down to 5,000 bees. And 5,000 bees do not need that much honey. Now, normally in the summer, a beehive is going to be around 50 to 60,000 individuals, and normally in the winter, it's between 10 and 20,000 individuals. If it gets less than that, it's more difficult for the bees to make it through the winter, but it has happened. I've seen it before. I've seen them get through with a very small amount. Generally, there's a lot of books written on beekeeping and how to look after bees and what they should do, but because none of the bees have actually read the books, they don't tend to follow all the rules that we've got laid out for them. That's generally what happens. And yeah, so I don't know why I'm talking about beekeeping quite so much, because it's one thing that we don't actually have in this game. I did have it a little bit in the Higher Hills map that we did. We did a bit of beekeeping there. But generally you don't do beekeeping in this map, so I don't think it makes any difference. Right, I have turned off the making the bigger fields. And I'm looking at this, and I don't think we actually need to put the roller around at all. I think that was a wasted trip, which is kind of a good thing. I like that was a wasted trip. It means that we're getting better at lining these things up and getting them done right first time. So let me just bring the plough over. I've got to take all of this stuff back at some point. It's going to take a while. So we're going to put this one here and unhitch it and get that cultivator on, and we get started with the cultivating. I'm going to get rid of the GPS. I don't want that here anymore. Yeah, so yeah, the beekeeping and all of the honey. We make sure, the beekeepers do make sure that the bees have enough honey for the winter. They do not suffer as a result of us extracting honey. In fact, most bees wouldn't exist if it wasn't for us, because we keep the bees, but a rogue swarm of bees that just turns up somewhere is generally considered to be a nuisance, and people pay quite a lot of money to have them exterminated. So, for those of you who are concerned about the bees sort of having all their honey taken away from them and being killed and so on, no, they're not. We look after them. Those bees are the beekeepers' little babies. We look after them like our own family. We really do. And anybody that has kept bees, I'd love to hear I'd just like to hear what people's thoughts are on beekeeping, because I'm talking like this because I was recently looking on a beekeeping forum, and there was someone on there talking about the evils of beekeepers. And I've got to be honest, it never occurred to me that people thought that beekeepers might be evil. It's a new approach to me, and so I don't like to shy away from different subjects. I know I have said previously that I don't want like politics and religion and stuff discussed on this channel, because I don't feel this is a proper place for it. It can create a lot of strong feelings with people, and so I feel there are plenty of outlets for that in other places on the internet, so I don't think this is the place to do it. And as a result, in order to try to keep the channel clean, because there is a lot of children that watch my videos as well, what I decided to do was I've taken a whole load of words that are involved with, obviously, abuse and cursing and swearing, which I don't like on the channel, and also a lot of words that are involved with politics and religion, and I've made a list of them, and YouTube will basically take any comment that contains any of those words and automatically remove it from the comment section so it can't be seen. So yes, I know I put that there, and I suppose it would kind of look like I'm trying to avoid talking about any difficult subjects. That's not the case. I just want to avoid situations where people just develop... It can result in a mudslinging match and people just saying really offensive things to each other because they don't agree with different points of view. However, because this is an agricultural video, it's all about farming. That's what we do here. We do farming. I will discuss a few controversial topics within farming, and one of those, which I had no idea that beekeeping was a controversial topic. This is completely new territory to me. I didn't think that there was such a thing as a controversial beekeeper. I thought you kept bees or you didn't. And having spent nearly 20 years keeping bees, it did come as a bit of a shock to me that there might be people who thought that it was a terrible thing. So if you don't like the whole idea of beekeeping, I would love to hear why you don't like beekeeping. I'm not saying that you shouldn't dislike it. I'm not saying that you should like it. I would just like to know why you don't like the idea of keeping bees. I've always found it to be an absolutely fascinating thing to keep these tiny little creatures who are capable of doing so much. They produce so much as well. A single bee in its lifetime will produce a teaspoon of honey, which doesn't seem like a lot, but when you have 100,000 bees in a beehive, and they are basically, a bee in the summer will live for about 6 weeks, and in that 6 weeks it produces a teaspoonful of honey. So if you're changing the population every 6 weeks for 100,000, that's 100,000 teaspoons of honey every 6 weeks if there is the forage available. The forage is basically the flowers and the pollen and so on available within a couple of miles of the hive so that the bees can go out and get it. That's a lot, and I did hear an argument that the bees, if we didn't keep the bees, they wouldn't die so quickly in the summer. Unfortunately, bees and humans, they look at the world differently, and for a bee, they do. That's how long they last. That is how long those little creatures will last before they die, and it's one of those things. And even wild bees, that's how long they last. In a swarm of bees, when they're busy, they literally work themselves to death. They literally just keep going until they can't go any further. Now, in the summer, that means a lot of flights in heat and so on, and they're dragging back all of the honey and the pollen and sap from trees to make propolis, which is kind of like a disinfectant / glue that they use to stick things together with, but also to ward off infection and eliminate bacteria from the hive. And they bring back water as well for everybody. And they will work themselves to death. And then through the winter, whichever ones are born in the autumn, they slow down a lot. They don't do so much foraging, and they survive the whole winter because the queen doesn't lay any eggs throughout the whole winter. So some bees will live for about 6 months, and then some bees will live for only about 6 weeks. It just depends entirely on the time of the year that they are born. Drones, they're only alive in the summer, and then come the autumn, the female bees, they all band together because the drones don't actually do anything at all. Drones are fairly useless. They only have one purpose in life. And beyond that purpose in life, the drones, once they can't even feed themselves, right? A drone is not even capable of feeding itself. Now, we don't really have a lot else that I'm planning to do this episode. We're just going to cultivate. We've gone all the way around. I was just aware suddenly that I've gone all the way around the field. I've been talking about beekeeping, and this may not be the most entertaining of videos, but we need to get this done before we can move on with other tasks. So unfortunately, this is we're just going to have to keep going with this, and I'll finish the cultivating before next week. So yes, moving back to the drones, they can't even feed themselves. When a drone is hungry, he will go and pester a female bee, and she will literally take food from her own stomach and place it into the drone's mouth. That's how useless the males are in the bee society. Okay, they literally only have one purpose in life, and most of them don't even do that. So when it comes to the autumn, female bees don't want to be bothered with looking after drones, who will constantly have the best food that there is available. That is the food that they steal and demand to be fed, and so they kick them all out. That's the end of the males. They're gone for good, and then you get a new batch the following year. So that's sort of really it on that. I would really, really love to hear all of your views on beekeeping, and if there is somebody that doesn't like the idea of beekeeping, I really, really want to hear why. I'd like to hear what it is about beekeeping that you don't like, because the one thing that I've always found in common with every beekeeper I've ever met is the absolute care and attention that they pay to every single bee in the hive. Right? I have seen a beekeeper who has spent all day looking at hives and has gone through 150 beehives, come home, find a bee on his doorstep walking around, which is basically means that bee has just about had it. That's what they do. They land on the ground. It's a little bit cooler. They can't get going again, and that is the end of the bee. It will stay there until it dies. And they will go into the house. They will get a teaspoon. They will get a little bit of the honey that they've taken from their hives, and they will carefully offer it to the bee so that it has enough energy to take off and get back to its hive. I don't see anyone outside of beekeepers exhibit that level of care to a creature so small. And so it does astonish me that there are people out there that don't like the whole idea of bee. I mean, I'm not saying that there isn't people that don't like it. There's people that don't like all sorts of things. It's just I'd love to hear your views on it. Is there anybody here that doesn't like beekeepers? And if so, why? Please fill me in on this. I really want to know. And maybe there's something that I can address on this. If I do see anything in the comment section, I will do my best to address your concerns and see if I can sort of set your mind at ease on some of it. And something else I would like to point out is if you buy honey from a store, chances are that honey has been imported from a different country, and there are several diseases that bees can get that the bacteria don't, the live bacteria don't actually live, but there are spores, the bacterial spores, the tiny little things that you can't get rid of through normal pasteurization processes. Basically, if you import foreign honey, I know some people will leave the jar of honey outside for the bees to come along and clean up, which is, it's a nice gesture. If you've bought the honey locally, by all means, do that if you want to. Let the bees come along and clean out that jar for you. But please, I'm begging you, whatever country you live in, wherever you are in the world, if the honey has not been grown locally, do not do that, because you could inadvertently introduce a very, very nasty disease into the local beekeeping community, which does actually mean that all the beehives have got to be destroyed. There's one here in the UK, it's called foul brood, and basically it means that the larvae, once they've hatched from eggs and they become the little grubs, you get the larvae to start with, and then they pupate and they seal themselves into a cell, and they turn from a little white grub into a full-grown insect. And when they're in that stage, they basically just turn to mush and die. And it's a really, really horrible disease, and there's two versions of it. There's a European one, there's a European foul brood, and there's an American foul brood. And for some reason, European honeybees are affected more strongly by American foul brood than they are by European foul brood. It's all over the world. Both versions are all over the world, but it's basically named after the countries where they originated from. And American foul brood, and I think European is as well, although I'm not certain, I think that both forms of foul brood are a notifiable disease. And if you get found to have had American foul brood in your beehive, not only does that beehive have to be destroyed, and when I say destroyed, I mean everything killed and then everything burned, everything. But every single beehive that is in that group of beehives, so normally an apiary, which is the name for a group of beehives, consists of anywhere from 5 to 30 beehives, and if one of those beehives is found to have foul brood, you're required by law in the UK to have every single one of those beehives completely destroyed and burned. It's absolutely heartbreaking. It's a soul-destroying experience for any beekeeper to have to go through. Personally, I've never experienced it, but I know I have friends who have been through it, and it is absolutely devastating to know that that is what is going to happen to many, many years of hard work building up an apiary. So please, never, ever put a jar of honey that contains honey that did not come from your area out where bees can reach it, because that could be the result. And it's absolutely appalling. But anyway, sorry to end this episode on a bit of a morbid note. I'd love to hear your views on that. My question for this week is, I'm going to be doing some forestry soon, and when I do some forestry, do you want me to use an auto-load trailer for the logging? Yes or no? Head into the comment section down below, let us know why you're voting for the one that you're voting for, see if you can't get everybody else to vote for the same as you. And of course, don't forget to actually cast your vote by mousing over in the top right-hand corner of the screen and clicking on the white circle. If you've enjoyed this episode, please head down below and give us a like, and if you really enjoyed it, please tell your friends all about me, get them to come and watch as well. That would be awesome. I apologise for spending so long talking about beekeeping. I just kind of got sidetracked, and it is something I'm quite passionate about. And yeah, But I will finish this cultivating. We can do the seeding next time. I won't spend the entire episode up here with the seed drill. We will do a few other things as well. But that's next week. So until next time, thank you very much for watching. This is Frithgar. Goodbye, and see you later.